Hi, and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker broadcast. This week's podcast is all about client retention. And the reason why I wanted to record this podcast, it's a solo podcast. And the reason why I wanted to record this was that I was looking recently in terms of remortgages and returning clients. And the stat that frightened me, and I'm not a person for stats, however, the stat that frightened me was that only 50% of clients will return to their original mortgage broker when their remortgage is due. So just think about that for a second, that if you are only 50% of your clients return to you their original mortgage broker to do their remortgage. And it's a stat that frightened me really, because when you're looking at, as a mortgage broker, you're building a long-term mortgage broker business. It's about retaining the clients for life. So it's quite a frightening start. So what I wanted to do is pick up that on a podcast and talk about client retention, what you can do post completion, what is your post completion contact strategy, and look at how you've got a fair chance of retaining your clients and not losing them to another broker or director lender when their remortgage is due in 2 or 5 years' time. So, yeah, that's the topic of the podcast. So, let's just get into the podcast. You're listening to the Mortgage Broker broadcast with me, Craig Skelton, the podcast which helps mortgage brokers at all stages of their mortgage broking career. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. As I said, this week's podcast is about client retention, and on the back of really a stat, I was lucky enough to be invited by Dan Reddish to do a presentation to the brokers that work with him, brokers that are part of his business. And when I started to look into it, one of the things that, with regards to client retention, the stat that I found out, which was quite alarming, is that only 50% of clients return to their original mortgage broker when their remortgage is due, which is quite a frightening stat, because as a broker, it's about long-term business. You're looking at client retention, you're building a long-term business, you build a long-term career as a mortgage broker, and you work very hard to generate leads and look for new business and get new clients on board. So really, the frightening stat of only 50% of those clients return to the original broker was something I wanted to pick up on, because I'm a firm believer in a contact strategy once the client's moved in. I'm always about the follow up. There should always be a follow up in terms of whenever you put the phone down, whenever you email a client or text them, whatever, there is some follow up with that in terms of what's the next plan, what is the next contact with that person. So I wanted to pick up on the podcast, and I did talk about client retention on the podcast back in July last year, but I didn't get into detail as much with regards to client retention. That's probably what I should have done and what I wanted to do, really. So, because I think client retention is key to building a successful mortgage broker business. If you are losing 50% of your clients, direct to lender, another mortgage broker, or wherever you're losing to, it is pretty criminal in terms of your mortgage business. So, like I say, when you look at 50% returning, why is that a fact? Now, there can be various reasons of why the client may not return to you, and you can't influence certain things. However, you do need to worry about, and you do need to focus on the things that you can influence. And one of those things is obviously the contact you have with the client following their completion. So it is a case of, you work so hard, as I said, to obtain the client in the first place, to get that lead. You're doing your social media, you're doing all those kind of things to generate leads, Google ads, paying for leads in, working with estate agents, whatever you're doing to generate leads. You need to retain those clients once you've had that initial outlay, because they are cheaper leads. You might be paying for a lead or paying an introducer like an estate agent. Once you've got that lead, it's your client. So it's so important to make sure that you're working hard to retain that client, because it's looking at, like you say, what you can control and what you can influence. So the first thing I would do, one thing that I would put to you right now, is have a look at your own conversion. If you've been lucky enough to be in a mortgage broker sole trader, mortgage broker, running your own business, or a mortgage broker within a firm, go back and look at and be honest with yourself in terms of client retention and look at what your conversion is. If the national average is 50%, what does yours look like? Now, if you're getting most of your clients back and you're satisfied with your conversion, then great, that's fine. That works for you. But I know a lot of brokers out there that are not, because when you look at it from a client's point of view, they have got so many options. When it comes to their remortgage, they've got so many options to look at with regards to people to turn to, because they've got direct to lender. So the lender's been contacted and they've sent the letter out telling them how easy it is and this is the options, and they will give them the limited options. So they've got direct to the lender. They may be looking at comparison sites in terms of looking at mortgage rates right now. They looking at other mortgage brokers who are running Google ad campaigns, or firm who are running Google ad campaigns as well. They could be in their Google when they're searching for a mortgage broker. And then also as well, other mortgage brokers on their social media feed, because the good thing is mortgage brokers are more prolific now than they ever have been with regards to social media content. I know I follow a lot of social media, follow a lot of mortgage brokers, and I'm connected with a lot of mortgage brokers, and they are in my feed constantly. And that will be the same for potentially your clients. So if they've done the mortgage with you, you don't touch them, speak to them, hear them, they don't hear from you for the next 2 5 years, but they're seeing a mortgage broker constantly in their Facebook feed or in their LinkedIn or their Instagram or whatever the social media look like. If they're sort of seeing them constantly in there, who's going to be the one they remember? The one that's in their face every single day, or the one that they spoke to 5 years ago when they bought the house or remortgaged initially, or when they moved home, whatever the case may be. They're the people that you've got to make sure that you retain them in your business, because they've already bought into your brand, they've already bought into you, they already trust you, they already know you. You are that comfy pair of slippers as a mortgage broker to help them when their remortgage is due. But you can't be that comfy pair of slippers that they leave behind or they throw behind the couch and never to be seen again. You've got to make sure that you're there for your client day in, day out. And also as well, one thing that I didn't talk about on Dan's session, but one thing that is quite key with regards to looking at client retention is your protection. Because again, with your protection sales, if you're doing a 2-year remortgage and you've got a 4-year clawback and you're not looking to retain your client, you're putting your protection at risk as well. Because the new broker, if they reach out to somebody that is like a new broker and they're reviewing their protection as well, the first thing you hear about that client is having you got a clawback, rather than actually doing the remortgage and doing their new protection policy, because the policy is better now or the situation's changed. I know you're still going to get a clawback for that, but it's better to have a clawback and still be paid on the new policy rather than just having a clawback and nothing else. So you've got to think about it not only from a mortgage point of view, but from a protection point of view as well with regards to your client. So yeah, so it's looking at what is your post-completion contact strategy. And all I wanted to do was just go through and explain what I would be doing, what I did as a mortgage broker, and the timeline that I followed and the habits that I followed when I was a mortgage broker. And I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm not saying that this will work for you. I'm saying that for me, the more contact you have with a client during the time of completion to when the remortgage is due, the better it is for you, the far greater chance you've got of converting that client and selling that client the remortgage product out rather than somebody else doing it. So it is looking at a post-completion contract strategy. So the first thing to look at is, with regards to timeline, is what do you do on completion? So what do you do in terms of setting your stall out from the start? So do you do a move-in card, or is it an email, or is it some form of contact that makes it personal? And just to sort of stress, just to go back a second with regards to this, when I'm talking about contact, it can be anything. It can be a text, it can be an email, it can be a call. As long as there is contact and as long as there is and it's personal as well, because I know that there is CRMs that will do this for you. There's apps that will send birthday messages, or there's various things out there that will help you with your post completion contact. However, one key thing with post completion contact is that is personal. It's personal to that client, it's personal to you, and it's personal to your relationship with them. So what do I mean by that is, like, so first of all, you've sent them there's some contact on completion, whatever that looks like. That is absolutely fine. Then 3 months. So once you've done that, you've made that completion contact. The next thing that is 3 months time in the diary, on the to-do app, however, whatever reminder looks like for you. 3 months in is there's some form of contact. Hi, how are you getting on? Everything you wanted from the home. And you can start that by making it personal, by remembering one thing about the reason why they moved in. What was the one thing, one driving force for them to move them into that home? Was it more space? Was it the schools? Was it nearer to work? And you can use that to your advantage when you're making that 3 month contact, because if you are texting clients saying, hi, it's Craig, just checking in. It's been 3 months now since you moved in. How is it now? You must be your commute's better to work because that's why you moved. How are you getting on with that? And you're making it personal to them, so then they will know that you remember them as a human being, not just as a transaction. So make it personal to them. So 3 months in, some contact with regards to the client and why they moved in, making it personal. And you can also, as well, that is a point that an opportunity to talk about the things they didn't want to talk about, or maybe not talked about at the time. So if they didn't take protection, or sort of said they were going to sort it out themselves, you can sense check with that. Talk about other things in terms of financial advice or estate planning referrals. Whoever you're working with, it's an opportunity. But the first contact with them, the first part of the message is the personal reason why they moved there in the first place. So use that to your advantage. So that's 3 months in. The next thing, obviously, which you can do is sort of Christmas cards, birthday cards, Christmas messages, birthday messages. That's fine as well. So you've got that timeline depending on when that is, when they moved in your 3 months. The next thing I want to be doing is then 12 months in, when they moved into that home. 12 months in, message, call, voice note, whatever the case may be. Can you believe it's a year since you moved in? Hope everything's okay. You can relate it back to the mortgage market right now. So you can sort of say to the client, obviously there's loads of press about mortgages right now. Do you have any questions? Don't worry, you're on a 5-year fix. You don't need to worry about the rates for a period of time. I'm looking after you. But making sure that if they've got any questions about the mortgage market, anything that they're worried about them, and any change in their circumstances as well. So questions, any change in their circumstances as well, you can pick up at that time. And that's 12 months in, you're having some contact with them again. So all you're doing all the time is signposting with the client that they know that you're their mortgage broker. Completion, 3 months in, 12 months in, and a birthday, Christmas card. You've got possibly 3, 4, 5 contacts there in the first year. Great. You cannot overrate that in terms of the customer loyalty that will bring, because you're making it personal and you're not forgetting about them and you're not seeing it as a transaction. So 12 months in. If it's a 2-year deal, you're going to put their mind at rest at that time to sort of say, don't worry, I'm still here. Your remortgage is going to be due. I'm going to be contacting you in 3 months' time, 4 or 5 months' time. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm looking after you. You could sense check at that point as well about the process now with regards to remortgage, so you can explain to them what that is. If it's a 2-year deal and you're going to be contacting them in the next 3 to 6 months about the remortgage, you can drop that in as well with regards to that. However, just a summary, just a catch up, just to check in, say 12 months since you moved in, any questions, anything changed, don't worry, yeah, I'm here, I'm still looking after you, and I'll be in contact from there. If it's a 2-year deal, start to sort of put the groundwork in now to the client, so they know that you're going to be looking after them. So when that letter comes through the door from the lender, the first thing they think about is you, and not what the rate is or what the lender is or anything like that. And then you move on to annual contact. So with regards to annual contact, it's just a case of, just checking in, making sure there's no changes, any change in your life, just a very general, hi, how are you doing kind of situation going on. So that's annual from when the date that they moved in. So you've got completion, 3 months in, a year in, birthdays, Christmas, and all the rest of it, and then annual contact from there. It doesn't have to be massive kind of thing. It's just having some contact with that client to let them know that you are still around. Because what you can do is that you can do ad hoc stuff as well. And what I mean by ad hoc stuff is looking at your email campaigns as well with your client banks. You've got all these clients. Do you do some form of email campaigns, quarterly newsletter? Do you do something like that, or a monthly newsletter, or a monthly email campaign about something or other, so they know that you are still around? And so, like I say, it's all about that constant contact with that particular client, to making sure that they know you're their broker and you're going to be looking after them when their remortgage is due. So again, with that, with the ad hoc stuff, you do it every year, but you can do ad hoc stuff as well. So you've got completion 3 months in every single year. You've got birthdays, Christmases. You are 20, 25 times, 30 times you're going to be contacting that client or touching that client or making that client aware that you're still around over that period. If it's on a 5-year deal, it's then just send check-in. It's just making sure that client knows that you're still around. So, and so what you're trying to do there is that whenever anything hits them from a mortgage point of view, anything hits them from a protection point of view, anything hits them from a friend struggling with a mortgage, or they're looking, their friend needs the mortgage sorting out, you're their broker. The first thing that enters their head when anybody says mortgages is a picture of you. Now, if they've got that picture of you, you've got it right. You've won, and that will always stick with that client as long as you keep on going with your contact, because you've always need to have a follow-up plan. You've always got to have that follow-up plan with that. So with regards to client contact, post-completion contact strategy, is so important that you retain that client for your business moving forward, for your business long term, because they've bought into your loyalty already. And so making sure that you've got a post-completion contact strategy is vital to build a successful long-term mortgage broker business. So just to recap, only 50% of clients return to their original mortgage broker when their remortgage is due. That's the benchmark. You need to make sure that you are better than that, and you know you're far better than that. And it's just making sure that your numbers see that as well. So just to, like I say, making sure you've got contact strategy, completion, 3 months, annual birthdays, ad hoc newsletters, email campaigns, those sorts of things, making sure you're keeping in contact with the client. And I say, for me, to take away from this, there's two things. Always there's a follow-up plan. So whatever your contact is, there's always a follow-up from there. There's never a dead end with regards to your client contact. And then the second point is, with your contact strategy, it needs to be personal. Automated is fine, but make sure there's personality within that as well. Okay, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for watching the podcast. If there's any thoughts, comments, feedback, please put it in the chat on whichever platform you listen to or watch the podcast. And as always, if you're thinking about becoming a self-employed mortgage broker, or looking to set up your own mortgage broker firm, business, branded business, or you're looking to accelerate your existing mortgage broker business, your existing mortgage broker firm, get in touch and I can explain how I can help and support you achieve your goals and achieve what you're looking to achieve. And as always, don't forget to run your own race. Thank you for listening to the Mortgage Broker Broadcast, the podcast which helps mortgage brokers at all stages of their mortgage broking career. If you have any questions about this podcast or any topics you want us to discuss, or if you're interested in working with me further, then please get in touch.